Yeah, that one of the things that was brought up when I think a few weeks ago when Visa took a hit was its involvement in stable coins and how if the stablecoin adoption happens, what it'll happen to their revenue when companies like Circle IPO in that space. What's your thoughts around that? Do they play a role or do they get lost in this?
They play a very, very important role. And personally, it's been one of my main buys over the last year and a half, 2 years, as I've realized the more of a role they play in the stablecoin environment. Because if you just think about it logically, to get the whole world to switch off of a Visa card and buy some random card where you can pay with stablecoins is too much of an infrastructure switch. So Visa and Mastercard are actively adopting stablecoins for the back-end infrastructure. And then another reason why some tokens and why some assets won't be able to compete with Visa and MasterCard, and that's why stablecoins can, is because you have to have a high transactions per second. And that's what Visa and MasterCard had. And most tokens can't perform that. Most companies can't hit 1,500 transactions per second, but Visa and MasterCard can. So it makes complete sense for these stablecoin companies, which they are, to partner with the Visa and the MasterCards behind the scene to allow them to be able to use their infrastructure.
Yeah, and the trust.
Mm-hmm. The trust is important because if you don't have trust, you don't have anything.
What about XRP? What's your outlook as far as like price points for that?
Price points for XRP? I think $5 to $8 is completely reasonable this bull cycle. Easily reasonable this bull cycle. It just depends on institutional adoption. It's basically like a game theory we're playing. If we can get this Bitcoin reserve and this digital asset stockpile, it's off to the races. I'm watching that very, very closely. But XRP has performed very well. And the best way I like to have the analogy for XRP, we all know about the lawsuit. And the lawsuit's still not over officially yet. The SEC has to drop their appeal. And once that happens, then the lawsuit versus Ripple will be over with. And it's documented that once the lawsuit is over with, it basically gives institutions a seal of approval to use XRP. And if you're an EYLU, you've seen that document before. But with that being said, the best way I like to put it is imagine a basketball being held underwater for 5 years, and then it's finally let go. It's going to explode. That's the reason why we saw XRP run up from 50 cents to $3 something, because they know that this lawsuit is institutions know that this lawsuit is coming to an end. There's just logistical things and some votes that the SEC has to have to be able to legally drop the lawsuit. But they're positioning themselves because they know that this is a currency that has been held back compared to other tokens. And something that is very important for people to know is you don't want to invest in a token that's just coming out now. You want a token that has staying power. Because if you look at the previous cycles, tokens like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, those have always been the top 10, top 20 tokens. The placement on them, that may have shifted, but those tokens have proven staying power. In order for institutions to adopt the token, they need trust, like how Troy and Rashad were saying earlier. They need reliability. The financial system doesn't follow hype. It follows rules, reliability, relationships, and trust.
Mr. Document and do the research. You always give us dates, right? Based on all the research from institutional documents, what are some dates that we should be looking at in the next couple of months that we should be circling on our calendar so that we can prepare ourselves?
The main date that I have, well, the two that I have is one, July 22nd. I'm not sure when this podcast will officially come out, but July 22nd, that's when the working group has to present all the findings to President Trump. Well, then who knows if they'll release that report, but that'll speak about the Bitcoin reserve, the digital asset stockpile, certain regulations that need to happen, certain policies and rules behind the scenes, because this stuff goes deeper than the Genius Act and the Market Clarity Act, because there were certain policies that organizations throughout the government had that restricted banks and institutions from entering the space. And they've all been peeled back one by one. And for a researcher like myself or some others in the researcher community, you know that these policies are peeling back are almost more important than the regulations themselves. So I'm very, very excited for this July 22nd deadline, regardless of when we get the official announcement of what it entails. But then August, President Trump said, no matter how you feel about him, he stated that he wants regulations done by August. Let's see if it happens, because if that happens, that times up perfectly with the 4-year cycle in the bull run for the last leg of the bull run where true wealth is actually created.
August makes it very interesting when you think in terms of when the next tariffs will be allegedly will be implemented. When people take money out the markets, we see crypto usually have an influx. So definitely, okay, got you. I'm looking into that.
You know what else is in August? Best Fest. Get your tickets.
That's a fact.
That's a big fact.
That's a fact. Before we leave security, like is there any latest updates on security?
So there actually is, and I've been looking more deeper into it, hopefully to have a official update for everybody. But there was a combined document with the FDIC, the OCC, and someone else within the government, and they stated that banks can now custody crypto assets. There was no rules or regulations around it. It was just a letter they released jointly. But that goes to show me that they're actively working on custody options behind the scenes. So if that comes, it's something I'm keeping my ear to the ground for. But for crypto custody in general, you want to be able to know that your assets are safe. Like, make sure you buy a cold wallet, a ledger, decent, whatever it may be, whatever your personal preference is, go ahead and buy it. But make sure you buy it. I personally use Ledger. Buy it from the actual website. Don't buy it from Amazon. Don't buy it from someone else, because it comes with keys that you have to be able to hold. But an issue that came up with one of my friends is that their house got robbed. And you know what they did? They left their ledger and their keys together in the safe.
Ooh.
So both are gone. So even if you lose your ledger and you lose your keys, you lose everything. Make sure you keep your ledger and your keys in two separate locations, because then you know that you're safe. There's little things like that and intrinsicies that can get people caught up. But you want to make sure your crypto is safe. Some people are going to have, and I think it was your guys' podcast. I forget what episode I was listening to. I think it might have been you, Rashad, where you said that where would you rather keep $10,000? Would you rather keep it in the bank, or would you rather keep it at home? And I thought that was a perfect analogy, and I think that goes to crypto seamlessly. If you would rather keep your $10,000 under your mattress, have a ledger, have a cold wallet. If you would rather keep it in the bank or with the institution, hold it on the exchange, hold it with these banks and institutions once they allow crypto custody to be a thing.